Well, hello everybody. I am Isaac, and I am joined here today with O'Brien. O'Brien,
Wahoo!
O'Brien,
I
where
am
art
here.
thou? Where art thou, O'Brien? Yes, unfortunately, Cole is not here. Sorry about last week. I know the last episode recorded, we said, yeah, everything is kind of normalizing and it will be back onto schedule. And then the next week took off, and then now we're doing a bonus episode.
Ye- Homecoming for a media teacher, though, is oh my goodness. Yeah, that's an early homecoming too.
Yeah.
Feels like
Yeah, that is.
seems like October is always homecoming for, but uh, but if you're teaching video and you're going to be, oh my goodness, going to be a busy week for
ab-
Cole.
Absolutely. And, I was on vacation last week too, so that didn't help. And
Right.
I had forgotten about the trip, so I didn't bring it up beforehand because of that reason. My mom and I both had actually forgotten about the trip, and and that's why it suddenly came out of nowhere that I was going out of the country for 4 days. But O'Brien and I today are talking about "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?" When personally,
Wow.
I think this is equal or just under my favorite Coen brother movies, which is this movie and Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah, and so closely related. Music
Yeah,
completely bonds them. Um,
yeah,
and you're right. They're two of the top. There's a pantheon of great films there, but these are your favorite two films.
from the Coen brothers, this definitely is, and these are actually definitely two of my favorite films of all time. I know
Right.
Inside Llewyn Davis. Yeah, I think I got to give Inside Llewyn Davis a little bit of an edge, just because I don't know. There's something about the movies that's just fascinating to me.
And both ahead of The Big Lebowski.
Yes, for the longest time, The Big Lebowski, which was my first Coen brother movie, that was like one of my favorites for a while. And then Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Our local historic theater down here, some of you may know it, the Jefferson, did a classic movie night of O'Brien, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? And that was the first time I had seen it, and like it had me dying of laughter the whole time. I
Oh,
was like, and it's just it's just an amazing script as well.
what is your funniest? The moment that you think is the funniest, or a couple of moments? I've got one in mind. There's one later in the film. I just saw it again for the second time, but I've really kind of both times I kind of dive deeply into the film, so it feels like maybe I've seen it two and a half times. But the funniest moments for you.
For me, I think it definitely has to be in the scene when Tim Blake Nelson and George Clooney wake up after having been with the sirens, and they realize that Pete
Ah,
is gone, and then they're like, "Where'd Pete go?" And they see the toad, and Tim Blake Nelson's character is like, for sure, like surely convinced that the little horny toad was Pete. And they had like
yeah.
the sirens use like some kind of form of witchcraft to turn him into a horny toad. I think the line that he even says is they done love a Pete, turned him to a horny toad.
Yeah,
I think,
that is an
and
awesome one.
they start going around and chasing the toad around the stream and trying to catch him. and then and then I think I don't know what else would be one of my favorite. That scene had me like dying the very first time I watched it, but I think George Clooney throughout the whole movie is
Oh,
like a terrific character because, well, at least a great comedic character because he's just like there's something about him that's always off, and he's just always so sure of himself that everything he says is the right way, and The
Oh,
way he plays it off is such a comedic and in such a comedic way. So I would have to say if it's not that scene, like basically any scene, he's so determined to have like his Dapper Dan or
yeah.
the scene where he's telling them that the reason why he should be leader is because he had an education. Well, I want to be a leader. Well, I should be leader. And then they look at Tim Blake Nelson. He's like, I'm with you, failures.
The other two, what are their names again? Let's see, Dapper Dan and
Yeah, Ulysses is George Clooney.
right. Yeah.
Oh, I forget who Tim Blake Nelson's character's name is. It starts with a D though, and and then Pete's character was played by John. I don't know how to say his last name, but he was in the most recent Batman movie, John Turturro. I think it's how you say his name.
Right. Absolutely. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Yes, nailed it. That's exactly right. That's Pete Delmar.
Delmar.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
Yeah, those two are not just hayseeds. They'll have moments of profundity on their own, even though Everett just makes fun of them relentlessly. Yeah, I mean not horribly, but definitely considers them less than when it comes to education.
I think
but then they'll have their moments of really cleverness. So I think they underestimate their own wisdom. The other two.
I think one thing, though, like I know we've been talking about the like comedic aspect of this movie so much, but one thing for me, as Cole mentioned a few episodes ago, like, oh yeah, I'm like his go-to mythology guy or whatever it is. Then that's what it is for me. Like, being a mythology guy, when I had watched this, it was like it was just a great adaptation of the Odyssey because it had all the beats that you would expect of Odysseus trying to get home. He's even hitting the Cyclops. He's got the sirens along the way. And so
I meant to notice that what's his the Cyclops character.
John Goodman's character.
Right. For his clan hat, did it just have one eye?
Yeah.
I meant to be watching for that. Yeah.
He just has the one eye because he only needs and that scene, it's comedic, but it has all these like really like heartfelt moments and like really serious moments. Like,
yes, it's comedic, but so dark and poignant. Speaks to. I mean, whoa! There's a lot going on there that speaks to America,
and
that speaks to American society.
There's also a lot in the movie that I don't believe the Coen brothers about, like when they talk about making this movie, because for one aspect, they actually claimed that the Odyssey was not actually, or at least originally, the Odyssey was not actually inspiration for the movie. And then when they handed it off to Tim Blake Nelson, who apparently is a huge Odyssey fan, he read it and he was like, "You guys just made the Odyssey, but like Dust Bowl era." And they were like,
"Yeah,
oh." And that's why at the beginning, inspired by Homer's Odyssey, that's when they leaned into it apparently. But another thing is the blues musician, right? That sold his soul to the devil.
Yes.
The Coen brothers swear up and down that there was no real inspiration going on there. I don't believe that because there actually, at that time, there was a blues musician who was mediocre. His name's Robert Johnson. You can look into this. He was a mediocre player, and he wanted to just play the guitar. And so the story goes, nobody knows exactly what happened, but after a few weeks of his disappearance in this town, he came back. He was like, I'm going to go and be the best player. He left, he came back, maybe after a year, I guess, because traveling around back then would have taken much longer. But and then he was like one of the best guitarists they had ever heard, like blues musicians. And the story goes is that in between that time, on the crossroads, he had met with the devil and sold his soul to the devil in order to be a great player.
Woo. Right.
And he was actually, his final performance was he was actually performing for like a saloon or something. I don't know. The venues back then, especially for black musicians, was not the best. But
No.
they say that like when he was performing, and this one is true because there were so many witnesses there to see it, where he just started convulsing and like foaming at the mouth, like, and people say that like that's when the devil came to claim his soul finally. That's and the Coen brothers swear up and down that what's his name, Tommy's character is not whatsoever inspired by Robert Johnson. I just cannot believe it for a second, because the picture of the like frame of him on the crossroads when they meet up with him is like just straight out of the Robert Johnson photograph of like what they considered to have been him selling his soul.
Wow, that's amazing. That's and that's an interesting. I can't imagine Tommy convulsing ever, even if he supposedly sold his soul. He thinks he did, and he talked to the devil. I forget exactly how he described the devil, but that was an interesting conversation. When George Clooney says, "What was the devil like?" and Tommy responds, but it makes you wonder if, at the end, I know we're jumping all over the place, which is fine because we assume you've seen the movie if you're listening to us.
Yeah, that's what we are. Well, I guess with the bonus episodes, we'll assume that you've either seen the movie or you've never heard about this movie.
Right. And so the flood at the end is just so good. But it feels maybe it's a flood of redemption too for them all, for all of them. And it is interesting to see George Clooney praying, and it's so dramatic. The camera works beautiful. You're even with George. He actually descends, goes beneath the camera goes above him, and you're really kind of moved by it. You're thinking, wow, there's this, here he is not praying the whole time, kind of just holding out against God, but then he finally gives in. Of course, he decides to undo that after he pops out of the water, and they're saying, well, you sure found yourself playing, didn't you? Oh, no, I don't believe in any superstitions. And oh yeah, they do seem to be perhaps all washed clean. And in my mind, I'm thinking Tommy will not end up convulsing like Mr. Johnson. I hope it.
You said the camera shot, but that's just gonna happen when you get Sir Roger Deakins, ASC, BSc, to to shoot your movie. Of course, it's gonna be shot beautifully. It doesn't matter how mid the script is. He's gonna make it look good.
Was that a Deakins film?
That was a Deakins Coen brothers.
Oh, I can't believe I did. I can't believe I just.
He's talked about that movie on his podcast, which I recommend. It's called Team Deakins.
Yeah, right.
And I noticed this when I watched the movie, and I noticed it specifically in two parts. One, the crossroads scene with Tommy is one that I've noticed because that's usually a picture that everybody says is a representation of Robert Johnson. And then there's another one, which is there's a shot. It's not like a big memorable shot, but it's noticeable where it's like the two kids are holding the blocks of ice while walking down the road.
Yeah, those two kids.
Yeah, that's like an actual photograph from that era, during the Dust Bowl era. And he talked about it, and he said that they looked at several photos. I mean, so many photos of that time period, and they used that as a basis to base like the cinematography around, and even in some cases recreated those scenes.
Right. Right, which is brilliant. I'm all and yeah, and Isaac, it's so good to be talking about this. I don't know how many, how in terms of your peers going through school, I was constantly saying, you'll notice when you read this American cinematographer article that this almost every time the cinematographer is inspired by art and photography. And
Yeah.
that is so cool. The Deacons is, and then I think there was like a WPA project that was commissioned, because they're trying to employ
Yeah.
everybody in the 30s and photographers for photographers to go through and take lots of pictures of the Depression era America, and perfect for that film. Just oh my goodness.
It really, I really like helps shape the world of Brother Art Thou, because out of all the Coen Brothers movies, I feel like this has like the best world building, and I know that it's like a time period, but I feel like we understand truly how the like prohibition Great Depression era of America
Oh,
feels in this movie, and more so than a lot of other movies that we watch, right?
I agree. Yeah,
Like,
Bonnie and Clyde does a good job of taking you
yeah,
back to that period, but a lot of them may not. And this one, it puts a sense. You wouldn't think when you if I'd have read about this, like, oh, this is coming out and it's going to talk about the Depression. That doesn't necessarily pull me in. Roger Deakins
yeah,
in a James Bond movie, I'm there.
yeah.
But the Depression era, I was like, but it's brilliant. It just pulls you in. You get all of a sudden you're just caught up into it, like you're following a myth, and you just can't let it go. And it's so good.
And
Yeah,
I think
it just
it blends like that Greek mythology in really nicely with that like old timey like American mythology about the world around us. Selling souls. I mean, today we probably talk about like
which is
Johnny Appleseed or something, but
yeah,
it like
yeah, that's
it
right.
really creates like this nice shaped world where all this could be some kind of spiritual aspect. It could be God, that could be the devil. The narrator at the beginning and the end of the film could be this all-seeing like narrator despite being blind, or he could just be some like random dude that's just rambling on. You know what I mean?
But he nailed that cow, cow on a roof. You're
Oh
watching for
yeah.
that.
But
And
it's
probably, I need to go back and watch the beginning again because the cow on the roof, you're just waiting for that for the whole movie. But there's the other things he said. Yeah, the you will not get the treasure you seek because George Clooney lied to him. Yes.
yep.
Oh God.
And what another thing is with the like American mythology, we see that, and that's what, and I think really the things that really help tie those two things together is the soundtrack, right? Because
Oh,
folk music is very much about like storytelling and like poetry and like of some kind of myth, right? Like the opening song, "Big Rock Candy Mountain,"
right.
is about like a mythology, a legend about like a a big rock candy mountain that they were
Oh,
hoping to be able to find, which metaphorically could be like gold or something that they were referring to instead of like literal candy, but just
and
like a big treasure island.
I'd never heard the Depression era version of Rock Candy Mountain. The bulldogs are going to have rubber teeth. The cops are going to have wooden legs. The trains are going to be empty. So they could just climb in the train, and the railroad bulls are going to be dumb or anyway. It's just beautiful. That song is fantastic. Apparently, they kind of softened it down for Burl Ives when
That makes
his
sense.
version is more like a kid's version. Rock Candy, that's all I remember is Rock Candy Mountain. But it's way more interesting, this Depression era, giving the common man a chance.
Yeah, because
There's
there's
even a
a
line, whoever invented work was surely a jerk. What's
yeah,
the
and then
line in that song?
there's the line, and I don't remember, but about like the jail cells will be made of tin, and you can just break right
That's
out again.
exactly. It's just so yeah. That's another thing. I wouldn't have been. If it's like okay, hardcore Woody Guthrie folk kind of like era folk music. I will admit, I'm like, well, maybe I can hear a replay of a Boston concert or Supertramp.
Can
But
Llewyn
no,
Davis
this
sing this
music.
one instead?
Say that again.
Can Llewyn Davis sing this one instead?
Exactly. But but it's fantastic. Well, that was like Llewyn Davis is like that's a fantastic education in
Hmm.
that era. And of course, they don't go after. They didn't do Woody Guthrie. They went for even although Woody Guthrie's totally gold standard type material, but they went after people you maybe there's a whole group. There's a whole lot of people who know this folk music, but there's a lot of people that don't. And so this was a good
Hmm.
education for me in real bluegrass folk music.
Oh yeah,
It
the
was
origins of it.
fantastic.
Yeah, and
Oh,
speaking about the opening, I was sitting here and I was thinking about. It. I was like, you know, that opening is phenomenal. Because think about it, it sets up the world. You see this opening shot, and like pretty much all the prisoners are black, right? Like that sets the tone. Like, hey, at this time,
right.
this is accurate. Like most of those prisoners were going to be black. They were probably like runaways or something that just like didn't get off away free, or they, or the same thing as we see today, stereotyping, and then
Same
just like
uneven
oh
application of justice. Yeah,
yeah,
that's exactly.
yeah,
Yeah,
and we see that, but then they're also singing the slave song, and then you hear Big Rock Candy Mountain coming in, right?
that's
And
right.
Big Rock
Lazarus
Candy
was the
Mountain,
slave song. Yeah,
Big Rock Candy Mountains is about the hope, or like the idea that there's like a big island or something full of treasure and wonder and stuff, which is what two at least of the three of our main characters here are looking for. They're looking for the big treasure, and it starts playing right when you see them, right? It starts playing, you see
right.
all three of them pop up, look around while Big Rock Candy Mountain's playing, and to them, their Big Rock Candy Mountain's just like this big heaping pile of golds that
Right.
Ulysses stashed away from a job a long time ago or whatever, and it will help them get away free or whatever crap he ate.
Yeah, supposedly knocked off and knocked off a like a truck, an armored truck with a
Yeah,
ton of money.
some
Yeah,
crazy
buries it
story.
where the TVA is gonna flood in a cabin where the TVA is Tennessee Valley Authority is gonna electrify Tennessee and bring back a Renaissance. It'll be like the Enlightenment, literally. And but yeah, buried and what 1.2 million. I really love the way they talked about even spending the money. They were kind of cool. One was going to buy back. A man was nothing without land, so he was going to get his
Yeah.
uh, a house and land back that had been taken by the bank. And what would they say? God, the other one, oh, Maitre d' in his own restaurant. They're going to serve me. I'm going to be dressed in a tux. I'm going to have the finest food. It was really kind of cool dreams. I like their dreams of what they were going to do with their money.
It stayed in true with their characters, like him wanting to be a maitre d' in his own restaurant, which is funny.
Right,
It stays true to who Delmar kind of is. Like he's not
right,
all there. He probably accepts that he can't cook food well enough to
right.
like have a successful restaurant, but he can at least hire people with a ton of money. And
Yeah,
but it also stays true within that time period. It's not some super elaborate thing. Like Pete just wants to buy back the home that the bank took, because the Great
right.
Depression was like something that seriously affected people, especially in that
Oh,
area.
yeah,
But on like the
yeah.
world building, I just love talking about the world building of this movie, just because my favorite thing is the flood. There's all these little tidbits
Ah, oh,
dripped out throughout the whole movie through newspapers or the radio, and it's all quick. It's all quick. It's not like they're putting it right in front of your face, like, "Hey, pay attention to this flood. This is going to be important later." It's like, somebody's like looking at a newspaper, like while you know Ulysses might be ordering some Dapper Dan. Someone's reading a newspaper about how they're going to break down the flood, and you see all three characters like they're not really paying too much attention to it at all. Like they're kind of aware of it, but they're not paying too much attention to it, or they don't think about it. So like it kind of it lets the audience know throughout the whole film this is going to happen. This is going, if you are paying close enough attention, you know that at the end they're all going to live because this flood is going to come right where the supposed treasure is going to be.
Just when it needs to be. Oh, and the evil sheriff. I mean, he's way worse than Charles. Charles Durning turned out to be a okay, just a standard crafty governor. But that sheriff, you're right. And so, you're right. That scene has the two newspaper headlines. I think one, and maybe there's a fire in the background or something like that, where you see the headlines. One is about the success of the group. I think, right, people are starting to really listen to this unknown group. And then the other one mentions the TVA, and they're going to be doing this. And that was a beautiful little shot just to inform you this is really happening. Then the flood comes an hour later, at least after that shot, and the flood is beautifully done. I was just in awe of all the things that float by, and just all those plot elements that float by in the water. Beautifully done. And I'm worried about Tommy. The other ones, I wish they were worried about Tommy. They're all happy. They're floating on a casket. I'm thinking, where's Tommy? And then there he is on that the big Rolodex desk or something like that, which had the ring, but of course it's not the right.
According to Holly Hunter,
no pleasing Holly
another Holly Hunter
film. To three.
Another Holly Hunter.
I'm gonna count her. She counted to three.
Oh God, she's counting. Another Holly Hunter film.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about
exactly
that.
Right.
2 Holly Hunters and no Goldblum. How does that work out?
On the other hand, our book, you might have had the when we covered Cohen in Studies,
I remember that.
mentions the Wizard of Oz scene. Basically, he says that the big giant Klan rally is like a reenactment of I guess the Wicked Witch and the monkeys at the in the Wizard of Oz, and of course Jeff Goldblum, Wizard of Oz.
Oh, there's our connection.
It's loose, but it's there. We got a Goldblum connection.
Oh man, that's funny.
That's where my mind went. That scene was, oh my God. I knew it was coming. I was thinking, because it's been a good couple of years since I've seen the film. They roll down the hill. Then they all become a little bit more what was really neat, and it was good. In a sense, they kind of a little bit of blackface for our characters when they roll down the
really,
hill.
they were just dirty.
Say it again.
I said they're just dirty. They just hadn't cleaned.
The racist Red Devil leader of the Klan there, literally in red, he said, these are mulattoes, and it's unbelievable. And then there they are it was really kind of fitting the way they pulled them together with Tommy in a sense.
So I used to do like movie nights pretty frequently with my friends, especially once when COVID started letting up again. We were like, hey, let's hang out some more. And that was one of the movies that I showed them. I didn't tell them anything about it. I was like, yeah, it's a real funny Dust Bowl era movie. I was like, you guys will enjoy it. That's it. That's all I said. And they did enjoy it. They did enjoy it. And then all of a sudden, when they rolled down the hill and they heard chanting, they were like, and they were like, my friends were like, wait a minute. Chanting in the Great Depression era? And then the camera pans, and it's just a sea of white cloaks. And I remember their faces like lit up, like, "Oh my God, what are you showing us?" And then they saw Tommy who was about to get hanged, and they were like, "Oh my God!" Like that was like the turning point for them. And which I feel like is fitting because like the scene right before that, they start arguing and really getting into it because they
Oh
find out
yeah.
that the treasure isn't real, and
Oh, yeah.
and so it's like I feel like that scene was like perfectly placed, just because it feels like a completely turn of events as a whole,
You're right.
but because
Roll
the
down
movie
the
is
hill.
the movie isn't completely comedic. It isn't
Right.
comedic
No, it's not.
100% of the way through, but it's also not serious 100% of the way through. You got to have a nice even balance of the two. And I think finding something that manages to keep the comedic elements but maintain its like serious side
Serious side. Yeah.
at like the most at probably like the real turning point of the whole movie. What
Oh,
better way to do it than a Klan rally?
oh God. We'll tell you know. Yeah, they're arguing here. He's saying. Yeah, it's almost like just you said it. It's almost like this isn't real. You mean you lied to us? The whole thing's not real. They get into the first major fight, then they split. They rolled it, and then all of a sudden, okay, we'll tell you what is real. What is real is a Klan rally in Mississippi
Yeah,
in
they're
1934.
gonna kill
That's
Tommy.
deadly. There's nothing except for the fact the Cohen brothers make the Klan. They look like a terrible seventh grade band. I mean, you know, it's like they're trying to march in some sort of formation. It's just, an eighth grade band is better than that. That's it. I mean, it's just.
But I think this movie really displays the Cohen brothers because
Yeah,
I noticed recently because now both of them right now are kind of just experimenting with their own styles
right.
apart from each other. Not like they're never gonna work together again. They definitely are. But
Right.
Joel Cohen has been doing a lot more like comedic and quirky things. Like he has this new movie with Chris Evans that's coming out pretty soon. And then
Ah.
Ethan Cohen is the one that did Macbeth.
Oh, right. With his wife, right?
I don't know if he did Macbeth with his wife, but Joel did this Chris Evans movie with his wife because I
Okay.
think she wrote the script or something. But E- so like I think this really displays the fact that they're the Coen brothers, right? Like Joel brings the comedy, Ethan brings the serious part, and they find like this
Oh,
nice little middle ground.
yeah. It's a. Oh, you said it. It's a great. Yeah, Joel's off right now. You're right, doing Honey Don't and Drive Away Dolls
Yeah,
because that's got to be Joel. Yeah, and then
I'm pretty
Macbeth
sure
on
that's
the
Joel.
others. Yeah. Say it again.
I probably have them mixed up. I just know him as the Coen brothers for so long.
Oh,
But
and then they. No, I think you're right on that. Well, somebody can put a comment in there.
yeah, engage. Engage with us
Please.
and tell us how wrong we are. But this movie is one of those few films that I would say is a perfect dramedy because you either had too
Yeah.
much drama or you have too much comedy to really truly call it a dramedy. But this movie like has this perfect like you'll go into something very comedic, right? Like this they wake up from the sirens, they start chasing a horny toad around thinking it's Pete, and then they go
Right.
into like the town try to eat food and then they get scammed by John Goodman who then crushes the
Oh,
toad that Delmar thinks is Pete and it like breaks his heart and it kind of breaks your heart as an audience as well.
oh yeah. When he
And
crushes.
then
Yeah.
and then it goes right back to being funny again.
Yeah.
Like it's like
Yeah.
this nice blend where like it allows itself to breathe on each aspect, but it doesn't sit for too long where it feels stale.
And I love that line. There's kind of in keeping with this, and this book of yeah by yeah M. Keith Booker. Oh, he is a good author. He does a lot of writing, and he mentioned it's kind of a magical world of magical realism. It's not because there's certain factual inaccuracies like
Mm-hmm.
Babyface Nelson. You know,
Babyface
just about
Nelson.
cried when the woman calls it. He actually died in 1934.
Yeah,
He wasn't. Yeah, yeah, that's inaccurate. He shoots cows. I can't believe. I don't know if he ever did that.
yeah, that was a CGI cow.
Oh, I'll be darned! I did not realize that. Yeah, well, that
It's
figures.
pretty.
They need to
Yeah, I
be.
mean they
Yeah,
didn't want to injure an actual animal, but
yeah.
actually, saw this fun fact, and that's that the cow that got shot. This is early days CGI, so they had to do a lot of tests
2000,
to see if it looked good.
right?
And apparently they showed some PETA people, but they didn't tell them what it was. They just showed the scene to see if they could at least believe it. And apparently they were horrified.
Oh, it worked well. That's funny.
Yeah, serves them right. They're not good people anyway. But that aside, let's keep that aside.
This was made right about the time of the Matrix cow, the cow that did it did the moves of the Matrix in, I forget what the name of that film. It was a karate film, and but it was a total satire. And oh, I have to look that up because it's a Kung Pao. I think the name of the film was Kung Pao. Yeah, and uh, just and they end up having a scene with a cow that's doing Matrix like moves. This was, I think, Kung Pao was made in 2000, so they were doing kind of a little scene with a parody of a cow. But the animation was better in Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Yeah.
Well, they had a budget. They had the Coen brothers and Deakins backing them, along with another fun fact is George Clooney agreed to the film without reading the script, and you know why?
Whoa. Why?
Because they approached him when he was going back to his hotel from being on the set of Batman and Robin.
Oh my!
He knew Batman and Robin. Everybody,
Wow.
if you ever watch interviews with Batman and Robin or have never watched them, I highly recommend them because everybody knew it was terrible. Like, you can tell everybody knew it was going to be a terrible film, and George Clooney was one of them. It was
He knew it.
He says like he literally came back to his hotel from set and then like got called or something like that, and he said yes without even knowing anything about the film. Like, he didn't see the script, he didn't know who was shooting it. He just said yes. He was
for redemption. Yeah, a chance to do something.
well, I mean, this is him going from TV to movies, right? He did ER, and then he's going into Batman and Robin, thinking, "Oh, this is going to be awesome," and then it was terrible. And then he does Oh Brother, and now he's a movie star. Now he's Danny Ocean from Ocean's 11.
Absolutely, exactly. You're exactly right. With the same kind of persona in a way. Yeah, that kind of created. You know, now this is a little off, but there's a line that I just love in the film that when they get, it kind of goes back to where it's got the serious moments. They're in Woolworths and they get thrown out of Woolworths, and of course that reflects the where black protesters were protesting to be able to eat, where it just eat in an establishment, and not have a special place to eat or to be allowed to eat where they wanted to. They're protesting. Woolworths famously, I think there was one that had thrown him out. And I love the line he says, "I wonder if that's just this one Woolworths or if that was a nationwide thing." And that's such a good comment, such a comment where they're going from completely silly sometimes, and then they're making social commentary that's really appropriate. It really makes you think. One other little detail I got, well, I keep it in my head because I know we still got to get to cinematography too. But the Charles Durning, the governor, he's so good in this. And I didn't realize how old he was. And I kind of lost track of Charles Durning. Seen him in Cocoon in the early 90s. But here you can tell he's aging, and I don't know how long he lived after this film. But believe it or not, here's a little Lamar fact. He starred in J.D. Fagelson's first independent film when J.D. Fagelson graduated from Lamar in 1969. And the name of the film was One of the Missing. It put J.D. on the map. It's about an hour long, maybe even 70, 80 minutes, like short feature. And Charles Durning was in that film.
Wow.
And and worked with J.D. Fagelson afterwards. J.D. Fagelson did the kind of started the scare. He worked with Wes Craven to start the kind of Scarecrow. Dark Knight of the Scarecrow was a film that J.D. wrote and Wes Craven directed, and kind of put the Scarecrow, the whole Scarecrow thing as a type of special type of horror, Scarecrow horror on the map. So, but Charles Durning was all part of that. And I just love him in the film. And I love the fact that He may be a little bit crooked. He's not but there are levels of hell beneath Charles Durden's character.
Such as being a grand wizard.
Yeah, exactly. And the people rejected the Grand Wizard because music pulls us all together. Good music pulls us
Good
together.
fun. Good fun.
Say it again, Isaac.
It just the whole aspect of he didn't care what anybody was or where they're from. He just cared that he had their support.
Any angle he could get, yeah, this could work. He sees them rejecting the Grand Wizard. This could work, and then he gets up there, and and he realizes that, hey, if you can just not be prejudiced to a certain point, at least just say that, go with the crowd, let music pull us together, and you could win this election. And then he pardoned the guys. It was great. Oh,
you are changed people, right?
Yeah,
yes, sir.
right.
Oh, in that song.
It's beautiful.
In Constant Sorrow. I love that song. I have that on my playlist, and I'll listen to that.
Oh, right. That is I need to look up the history of that song more. I don't know. Yeah. It is an outstanding song, and I think we hear it at least twice in the movie. And
it's more like 3 times, because you hear it in full when they record it, and the end, and then you hear at least half of it, like kind of at a mid part, because someone's listening to it on the radio when it's getting popular. Right. And it's funny because you don't even see the boys, the main characters, or Tommy, like, pay any attention. They don't even realize that it's gotten really popular.
That's right. They don't realize it and it's so cool that everybody loves us. This is great.
Yeah, and you can hear everybody in the background and around. Like, do you guys sell Soggy Bottom Boys here, or like this made up Soggy Bottom Boys bands? And they're all trying to look for it, and they're all listening to it. And it again, this is going back to that, like, world building that the Coen brothers has created, because outside of the main characters, you see that the world continues on. Like, there's a plot in the overarching, like, world that, like, keeps going on, because then when the main characters are now exposed to this at the very end, you realize, like, oh, just because we're not focused on it doesn't mean it didn't continue happening. Like, it does.
That's a great point.
And I see that's where a lot of
their world build
a lot of movies fail at that. Like, they'll introduce an idea,
the main characters.
Yeah, and if it doesn't happen on screen, it didn't happen at all. Like, that's the rule. And then it kind of feels weird, because then, like, it was like, what was the point of bringing that up if you're not even going to follow through with it to any extent? Like, even just like a little bit of a newspaper in the background, I think, like, MCU is a really good example, and I think that's what a lot of people used to like MCU for, because, like, with the Avengers, right? They had the whole Battle of New York, but that was a through line. The Battle of New York and the Sokovia Accords were like a through line that kept happening, and S.H.I.E.L.D. being Hydra. And you would see it in, like, the TV shows, like in Daredevil. You would see a newspaper in the background where the journalist won an award for his article about the Battle of New York or something like that. And we don't see that as much anymore. It's like they've almost gotten a little lazy with it. No, I think it's less that they're lazy and more that they have too many movies at one time to keep track of any of the world building, to, like, truly follow through on it, even if it's something as simple of, there's a giant Eternal just sitting in the water, and nobody's bringing this up for like 2 years.
Right. And parallel universes,
I think they got lost in their own plot.
Right. You're right. Just the world, the common sense, really good, nuts and bolts world building that they had set up. It's kind of getting lost in all that stuff. And that's a great point. And this movie brings the point of, when you just keep it simple, but you have that world outside your main characters, how valuable that is. It feels so good.
And
Um,
I feel like Coen brothers in general do like a really good job at that. Like I
right,
kind of felt that way with Inside Llewyn Davis, right? Like we talked about it a little bit where he
right,
didn't want the royalties because he needed the immediate cash for the abortion.
right,
And then we see it come up again that he should have taken the royalties, or he was considering going and finding his son. Like there's whole lives going on outside of Lewin's world. Like,
right,
I mean, the cops just randomly show up and take Johnny Five's character and just leaves. Right? Like they show
right.
up, they pull him over, they arrest Johnny Five, and then
That's
like they
right.
leave, and it's like never brought up.
Never brought
You
up
you don't
again.
know why it happened. You don't know what happened after that. John Goodman was asleep the whole time. He doesn't have any insight. He doesn't realize what happened, and but it's like this realization, like, oh yeah, these characters have their own lives, and they're affected with their own own issues going on in their lives, and that it's kind of like a little bit of a shock value thing in that case. I think it's more of a shock value and less of a world building thing. But
Right,
I love like little details like that where movies just like things just keep happening. It doesn't
right,
matter who it is, it doesn't matter what it is, it's going to keep going on to some extent.
right. Yeah, that I love that part of it. And the I think the French New Wave kind of played with that some.
Hmm.
The idea that I think "Don't Shoot the Piano Player" has that scene where um, our main character is going to go and get. I think he's wanting to get a. Forget what he's trying to do. It's like get a musical lesson. That's not quite it, but he's very timid, and it takes everything he's got to knock on the door to go to this musician, and I believe it's a musician. And as he's going to the door, a woman comes out, and then we follow the woman for about a minute. We just follow her out the door. She never shows up again, but it completely makes you realize there's a whole world out there.
Yeah, I want to
And
know more about that guy or
yeah,
this
yeah,
person.
yeah. It's just it, and seems like you're right, John Goodman. What did happen to John Goodman? Come to think of it,
And Lewin Davis?
yeah,
I don't know. Lewin
that's
just left him in the car with the cat.
that's right. Left him in the car with the cat, and we never. That's exactly right. And then the kid gets picked up, and
Hmm.
yeah, that's. Whew. Is
Eh,
there are there any good cops in the world of the Coens?
oh yeah, yeah, the
Oh,
Fargo
great point.
sheriff. It's the
A
sheriff, and
hundred.
then she has a
What?
deputy that's like a little, not all the way. Doesn't have the best brains in the world. A little Delmar, more
Right.
Delmar than Ulysses in a way. But
Yeah.
she's a
Good.
good
I was
cop. She's
thinking
a
it
great
when you
cop.
mentioned that. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. That's a yeah. What Delmar represents. Yeah, he would be. And that's such a beauty. Yeah, she is an outstanding cop. Yeah, 100% police officer in Fargo. She's just terrific. I was thinking, Raising Arizona. I was trying to remember. Do we see many
I haven't seen
police?
that
Oh,
one
of
yet.
course, we meet Holly Hunter. Holly
Oh my
Hunter
god,
is yeah.
I love Holly Hunter, and I don't know how she keeps coming up.
Which
Oh
takes us back to our cast.
yeah.
the, the
um,
the perennial, yeah.
I mean, we we have to talk about the cinematography. I love the world building, but obviously, I think the standout thing in this entire movie is the cinematography
Oh,
because
yeah,
Sir Roger Deakins, ASC BSC, does a fantastic job as he always does, which is why he's
yeah,
capable of being in two cinematography union
yeah.
guilds while being knighted by a queen.
Right. That's the trifecta right there. Yeah.
And that's why he's probably one of the greatest cinematographers ever.
And this one caught me more for, I'm thinking of just one Deacon's funny. It's a Deacon's film that really helped bring back the whole James Bond franchise. Was I'm drawing a blank on that film. It's like four James Bond films ago, and and it was
Spectre?
the one before that. Stevens.
Skyfall.
Skyfall. Yes, that was his first one to do, I think, because
Yeah, because those are the only two that were shot on digital.
and Roger Craig asked him to do it. He knew the franchise was flagging, and so yeah, anyway asked him to do the cinema. And it what an interesting thing for that actor, what brilliant actor to say, look, what we need is awesome cinematography too, and a good
Yeah.
story, and it was just beautiful. But the lighting in that. In some respects, you think of night scenes in that film. One scene's lit completely by neon light in a big building where the characters are fighting. There's the old Scottish castle. This one caught me for the exterior cinema, the lush greens and the yellows. They're in Mississippi, in maybe the edge of the summer, going into the fall, just a little bit. Just it's exterior photography. Yeah.
I actually have so much information regarding how they managed to get that Dust Bowl era look from two different places. The first one is obviously from Deakins' mouth on his podcast where he talked about it. And when he was approached by the Coen brothers to do this, they were like, yeah, we're thinking about shooting like in Ireland. He was like, hold on. You can't just shoot in Ireland at this time because it's going to look... Or I don't think it was Ireland. It was somewhere else. He was like, you got to think about the seasons. Because if we shoot it in this area at this season, it's going to look like Ireland in the springtime. Like like we can't do that.
Right.
So they thought about very hard about like the season that they were shooting in, because the season determines very much how like our perception of color affects it, right? Like once when it gets hot, it always feels warmer, like visually, and then it's because it is, right? There's typically more sun, so greens are more yellowy, and as opposed to during winter when winter's a little bit more cyany with those greens. So they actually shot in Louisiana.
That makes sense.
A lot of the movie was shot in Louisiana.
The Spanish moss. You can't. I mean, it's hanging from those trees,
Yeah.
and it's funny. I forget the Dust Bowl stuff. There is a Dust Bowl look to it, but at the same time, we feel like we're in Mississippi, Louisiana, because it's so lush. You can drive in the trees in either one of those states, and it's just, and then the Spanish moss, and you just look at that and you go, oh my God, it's the green / the yellow cyan, just
So the other thing I know about this movie is actually the post-production process. And this is the thing that I say why this should be a Criterion film more than any other Coen brothers. And that's because it completely changed the post-production process for Hollywood as a whole. Because at that time, digital intermediate, like if we think like digital coloring, like using Da Vinci, which is probably the most well-known and also most accessible, only accessible, I should say, like color processing, it is also the oldest. It's been around since 1982.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that, but Da Vinci
I thought it was in the 90s.
Yeah, Da Vinci was only really being used for like broadcast studios, music videos, commercials, because those are the things that needed quick turnarounds. So they couldn't hold on to like the analog of putting it through a color timer and sending out like a million prints and stuff. It was much easier to just throw the negatives into the like a digital space, brighten up, add contrast or whatever, and then just pump it out on a million prints. And then that was easier to send out very, very quickly for those processes. But for the longest time, it was not seen as a thing for film because you couldn't get the film look. That's what they kept saying. This isn't good enough for film. We can't get the film look. This just isn't good enough. Come around to the late 90s, and there's a woman named Jill Bogdanowicz. And she is a colorist. Not a color timer. Those are the people that do the analog chemistry. She is a digital colorist. and she's learning, through her like
Post,
post
right?
production facility that she was working at, how to do all this stuff, set up like even something as simple as cables and stuff. And word catches goes is going around like Hollywood that the Coens and Deacon are looking to find a way to get to truly bring out the Dust Bowl era look out of the like film strips.
Right.
And everybody's like, oh yeah, we have the best color timers, but they just couldn't do it. So Jill was making the case that they could just use digital. So she
Not
calls up,
chemical, but
yeah,
digital.
she
Yeah.
calls her dad, Dr. Mitch Bogdanowitz. I know so much about this, but I also have taken like a few master classes, and one of them was actually taught
Oh
by
yeah.
Dr. Mitch Bogdanowicz. I told you about this.
Exactly.
I've
The
been
Kodak
writing.
guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they're talking about this. They were actually talking about this in the class in the presentation, and
Oh,
she
that's so
calls him
cool.
up, and he's been working at Kodak for like 30 years. 30, yeah. By that point, it was like all pretty close to 30 years. He had helped develop so many
Wow.
films. He moved into the like digital side because chemicals, working with chemicals is dangerous. So he moved into the
Ah,
digital side, and he built a LUT for them to use. And I think Jill only served as like the color assistant for it, but she kept pushing. She kept pushing like, "Hey, we can do it. We can do it. We can do it. I guarantee you, we can do it. We can do it. We can make it look good." And so that was the first time that a movie had used a digital like color rendering process or post production
wow.
process at all for like a feature length film, because up to that
Wow.
point it
Wow.
like maybe CGI, sure, like CGI for like this dragon or the cows so they're not getting shot or
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
but like this is the first time that we've seen like a feature length truly been rendered out through a like digital post production space, and because of that, it saved so much time and energy. Like studios were like,
Right.
"Oh,
Right.
this is legit. This is the thing we can do now." So now that like the whole
Wow.
analog process has gone away almost completely.
Yeah. Yeah. The all the kid stuff you do with chemistry and yeah, even kind of like flashing the film beforehand. There was all
Yeah,
sorts of stuff, which is kind of like if you screw it up, you got to get more film. I mean, doing this stuff
yeah,
before you shoot the film, and that's just a minor thing, not necessarily dealing with color, but still, it's yeah. But here, after the fact, you've still got your film that you shot, and you're doing this after it's shot, and you can do it faster. And if it doesn't quite look right, you try it again in the computer digitally.
yeah.
And yeah,
It
yeah,
doesn't screw up the actual negatives or anything,
the original negative,
which is
yeah,
great. And then of course
yeah,
a couple years later, George Lucas would use a digital camera to shoot Attack of the Clones on, and now digital both in production and post is like the standard.
and you're right. Did you? And Roger Deakins, I think that James Bond film,
Yeah,
Skyfall, was the first he shot digitally
yeah,
because he
both.
didn't want to do it.
Yeah,
And
the two James Bond films he did were both shot digitally, and to my knowledge, I think they're the only two that were shot digitally. But they also
yeah,
look the best.
they
So
do, and they are the best of the recent.
so if you want to make your arguments about film versus digital, I just point you to James Bond.
To James Bond.
Like,
And strangely enough, of the recent James Bond films, I would argue that those are the Spectre is outstanding in
oh,
its own way.
Spectre's
It's
good.
really just a good
Skyfall's
film.
good.
The follow up was like, yeah,
Oh,
it
No
was
Time to
just
Die.
yeah, yeah. It just
I feel
yeah.
like they just this is not Oh Brother Where Art Thou related at all, but like
No,
I just gotta say, I feel like with how bold it was to kill off Bonds, that the whole movie felt like they rushed the process to make the film to acquire the money from the shock value that they killed off Bond. And it just
guessing.
I think in like even watching it, that's how I felt. I'm like, this is like good. But like if you gave it like 2 more years or
Yeah,
even just 1 year, like you could have made it great. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's neither here nor there. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
but that's just a little fun fact about Oh Brother Where Art Thou, with the that being the first digital intermediate
Yeah, that is
reproduction.
amazing. That is, and it shows. You're there looking. You're just looking at the. I'm like, that's so green. And then, of course, at the very last shot, there goes the old man down there goes the blind man down the railroad, and we pull up, and then we desaturate the color, and it goes back into the past. It becomes black and white, almost black and white, real kind of sepia like
Yeah.
for the very last shot. And it's just, it's so good.
Yeah, I love the
Whoa.
whole sepia look because it's really looking like through that vintage photographic, like when you go to the
Right.
museum and you're looking at that photograph of the two kids holding the block of ice. That's what it feels like, and it feels like they truly managed to capture like a time period that we can't see, or we have no
Yeah.
real perception of how it looks because nobody was really there, and it's not like photography or film of any sort, or photography of any sort, was able to truly capture in detail what it looked like.
Right. Right. And God, yeah. And it was, in some respects, you can have those, yeah, that the WPA Dust Bowl photography, and yet it's still kind of lush, but it is of another world, and probably the digital Da Vinci probably really helped with that. The woman and the Kodak guy working together probably really helped with that,
Oh yeah.
because I think if you go with more of a chemical process, and I'm just throwing this out here, you end up with, and there's some great films. These are fantastic films, but I don't think your range of color options is as lush as Oh Brother Where Art Thou. You're looking at Paper Moon. You're looking at Chinatown, things that kind of have a sepia look, and they're great, but it just feels like Oh Brother Where Art Thou maybe just pops. It's still kind of got that old look, but it also pops in a way that maybe the other, that
Yeah.
Da Vinci kind of helps give them a really digital help there.
Yeah, because like even back then, like obviously Da Vinci has had a million updates since then that allow you to fine tune things even more in even more
Right.
detail. But you were able to get like, because like in the chemical process, you're using like your printer points or whatever, and it's like you're stuck with hitting 1 on the printer point. You can't go, 0.7. You got to hit like the full 1. Like
Right.
like you're stuck in that times, and that's really difficult, I think, for like something like that really warm sepia look to look good, because it's so easy to make that look bad very quickly because you'll put too
Right.
much, and if you put too much, you've just ruined your entire process.
Yeah, that's that's exactly right. That's exactly
You
right.
can't just like float around and look for the look. You
Yeah.
gotta have
Yeah.
to have a plan. Like it's just a lot more difficult for a lot of reasons, but that's probably just one. I think that's why they were able to really make it pop and make it, despite it being like this warm, really warm sepia look, where like everything's like yellow, the faces are yellow, the trees are yellow.
Right. Right. And you got in world building, it's like not just everything's necessarily just pure yellow.
Yes.
You've got more gradations. Yeah. Yeah. That's well, before we go, I got to ask you, we've talked about the Coen brothers' latest projects.
Oh yeah.
What's Deacons? I'm sure,
Deacons.
what's he working on
I
now?
don't I don't I don't really know myself. I wonder if I can,
Yeah, no problem.
let's find it.
Because there was
Sir Roger.
Skyfall there, and then several things after
Yeah,
Skyfall.
he
I know he
did
just kept on
Spectre
working.
in 1917,
Oh,
which
did 1917
1917.
also?
Yeah. Yeah, oh, Blade Runner 2049.
Oh my
He
goodness, was a
did.
Deacon's project.
Okay, so it seems like the last two things he DP'd for, was one of them was actually 1917, which is crazy to think about, because
Yeah.
that was 2019, and then the most recent one, which was 2022, was
Ah,
Empire of Light.
oh, Empire of what?
Light.
Light. I will admit I have not seen that.
I don't think I
Um,
have either. I
yeah,
don't think I've even heard of this.
yeah, I gotta admit, yeah, well, yeah. When you know what, when you said that, I thought of Megalopolis, and, and but I wonder who Coppola used for Megalopolis anyway.
Probably the same guy he always uses.
Ah, good point.
That
Yeah,
that would be my guess.
yeah, that's and I will admit,
Oh, he didn't. What? No, I thought I just saw it. Oh, he didn't do Spectre. We're wrong. He
oh
didn't do
no,
Spectre. He did Skyfall, but he didn't do Spectre.
he didn't do Spec. That was the one Bond. Well, it was his latent image of that he had just done Skyfall that's kept Spectre still pretty good.
Yeah, that's
That
true. I
Deacon's
think.
effect. It'll last at least one movie in a franchise.
Yeah, and then they shot the last one on film. Do you
I'll
know
be
about?
darned.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they shot it
I'm
on film.
surprised they did shoot the last one on film.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think
it,
the color timer for that movie, oddly enough, they worked very closely with Kodak on it. I think it was one of the Bond films. I can't remember
right.
exactly which one, but Deakins had her, and she was apparently a legendary color timer, and worked with Deakins. But Deakins had her on his podcast, and she was talking about it, and like she was like, yeah, I got a random call from Kodak after all these years of them like having to shut down all this stuff. They were like, hey, can you come back for this one movie? So I went
Wow.
back and helped like drop the chemicals on it. I was like,
That was and
oh
that was the one with Rami Malek and
yeah.
where the bad guy and Jeff Goldblum turned down that part to be the bad guy. No, I'm kidding. I made that up. I made that
Oh my god, you really got me.
I'm
I
bad.
don't know.
I'm bad, bad,
You
bad, bad. I
you
just had to
really
get one
you
more
really
Goldblum.
get me with that. You really get me with that like every time. I
He would make a good Bond bad guy.
I would love to see Jeff Goldblum as a James Bond bad guy. I think that would
Yeah,
be
me too. It would not have hurt the last film at all. Probably would have helped it. I love Rami Malek, but that to me was just miscasting. He wasn't used correctly, and and James Bond should have just stayed married. They had to kill off what's the I can't remember who they killed off. It was they supposedly were married 5 years, and then and then anyway.
Hoyt von Hoytema. That's who
Say it
did.
again.
Hoyt von Hoytema did Spectre.
Did Spectre. Okay. Did a good job too. That's
Yeah, he does. He does Christopher Nolan's like more recent films.
Oh, that's where I know the name. That's where I know.
Yeah, he's also
Well,
done.
we have gone far
Oh, yeah.
afield.
We
Far
have.
afield. We probably ought to wrap it up, but but this was a blast.
This was.
I had
This
so
was.
much fun.
I love this movie. So,
yeah.
what's your reason for wanting it in the Criterion? We talked about my reason for why it should be in the Criterion, but what's yours?
A recent film.
Reason
I've watched
for
on
it?
Criterion?
No, reason for this movie to be in the Criterion
To
collection.
be in Criterion. Oh, well, you're right. The cinematographer and Deakins was, oh my God. And, Deakins, geez, that reminds me, we're thinking of the films, what was that? Deakins special feature isn't Deakins on that Russian film? I was thinking special feature with Deakins. He's on that Russian film that our friend loves so much. The Russian.
Oh, is it the war
Carter.
movie?
Yes, the war movie.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Deakins does a special feature on that, which is so cool that Deakins does it. But anyway, no, I guess the writing, the historical, the world, like you said, the world building, the writing, the historical points that it makes, and it's just, and then that will, as if all that's not enough, but then it ties to the Odyssey, and it's so cool that it references a myth. I mean, I got one question for you too.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be my reasons. because you know your myths, and this you may not know the answer to this. The bad sheriff at the end, you know, he comes back. The guy with, I mean, how can he see out of those sunglasses? They are just black. You know,
Oh
the
yeah.
lenses. And we see them floating under the water, and I'm going like, yeah, that's cool. I'm glad those. You know, I hope that guy did not make it. But the is there a character in the Odyssey like him that where we come back at the end to rescue Penelope, to be with the wife? Is there one final stinger like that?
I don't I don't think so, because Odysseus only really goes on this grand adventure because the gods were playing games, and then the Trojan War and all that nonsense, and then the gods were
Right.
playing with his life. I think I think he represents I think he's a representation of I think because this movie is set in a time period that's very like
Oh yeah.
Dust Bowl. You see a lot of Southern Christians, like they mention God a lot throughout the film. I think he was really just there to serve as a representation of the devil.
I think you're right. A limit, you know, whereas you got the governor who, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he is of his time. He's not going to become a progressive governor of Mississippi, the guy,
No.
Charles Durning. But he's kind of, he's like, well, but I'm not going to be the worst of myself. I'm not going to be the worst person I can be. I'm going to find a little love of music, maybe, and some humility, and enjoy, and be governor, you know, let the good times roll, kind of a care. So
Right.
there's levels beneath him. And you're right, that sheriff is represents those levels of hell beneath him. And that's a scary
Because
level too.
you see Tommy, who says they sold his soul to the devil, and you see him react to the sheriff more
Oh,
than anybody else. And that could come back to there might be a supernatural aspect thing to this movie, or it might be its time period where he's just a black man being chased by a sheriff.
oh, the worst. And who's even gone beyond. I mean, the guys are saying, hey, we're pardoned, we're okay. And the guy says, I don't have a radio. I didn't hear you were part. It's like, oh, just yeah, kind of representative of that, the scariest, yeah, element in that can be in the South. It doesn't have to be in the South, but it was in the South back then,
But
and would take law into their own hands. You
yeah,
know,
and we
take the
see we
law,
see images too,
make
like
the law themselves.
through the reflection of his glasses, we see the fire of like the building that he like torched. And I think
Wow.
like moments like that, or when Tommy's talking about the devil, or someone says this or that about the devil, and then it cuts to the sheriff. I have always interpreted as him as like this personification of the devil,
Of the devil.
and he's
Yeah.
come to claim the souls of
Wow.
more, not so much Delmar and the other two, but because of Ulysses. He lied to his friends. He lied to these people to get what
Oh,
he wants from them. He wants to break free from their chains, literally, break
right.
free from their chains, and get back with his wife,
Right.
and see his kids again. But instead, he's chained up to these fools, and so he lies to them, and he like brings them all across Mississippi just for this one thing in the valley that doesn't even exist. And
Right.
I think the others, well, more so Delmar and Pete. I think those two are just casualties, I guess is a way to say it. And then Tommy, of
Yeah.
course, is just like his soul's about to be claimed. He
Right.
he hadn't even had it that long,
And
but
the
his soul's about to be claimed.
and the flood redeems. The flood, the big reset, the big biblical reset. When you think of Genesis, the flood of redemption, in a sense of, you know, you could look at the flood as a complete reset, but in this case, it really did. It probably claimed the animals that needed to be claimed. Some of even the
Yeah.
cows were saved, but all the bad guys are left. Although I hope the guys that were digging the graves, they just happened to be there. They were prisoners. I hope that they made it out
Oh
somehow.
yeah,
But definitely the
I
sheriff.
think that moment was genuinely the redemption aspect, because
Right.
it happens right when Ulysses decides to convert, right?
is interesting. That's right.
because the other two have already gone through the baptism scene,
They did.
which also that scene's awesome. That's amazing.
Oh, it is.
Oh, we
It
didn't
is.
even talk about the baptism scene. That is an amazing scene. It's beautiful.
Oh,
But we didn't even. But there, by that point, those two have already like. In the case of Pete, right? He's already been baptized.
yeah.
He's already been tortured.
Yeah.
Like he, at this point, he truly is a changed man.
Right. Right. You're right.
And Delmar, he may not be the brightest out there, but he believed in the baptism probably even more than Pete did.
Right. That's right.
And then now we see Ulysses. He's about to be claimed by the devil, and he and he gets down on his knees and he goes, "Lord, you gotta help me." And then that's when the flood comes in and wipes him away. So I think there's just like that like religious tone to it to keep
That's a good point.
to keep it like it's inspired by this Greek myth,
Yeah.
but it's very much like Southern American mythologized. And
Right.
I think that's how they really merge the two together by incorporating these like Christian and like talking about God and baptisms and like sins and the devil like showing up with his hellhounds basically. And I think that's how they use they used Odyssey as a skeleton and then used that as like a meat for like this greater like feeling of its it's like an American myth.
Right. And in some respects, it's almost in a sense brings out the best of redemptive type stuff because the Hellfire and Brimstone governor candidate, who is the Klansman, gets washed away also, not necessarily in the flood, but he's taken away literally on a pole.
They pick him up and they just like crowd
he's
wave.
completely thrown away, just useless, and yet he has all those cruel ideologies that he represents. And the sheriff, you're right, but at the same time, maybe Ulysses needed to feel at some point a sense of being humble. He really did need that, and he needed. We all do, and at some point in all our lives, it comes to that point where you've just got to be humble and say, I have screwed up. I admit it in front of all. And that's what saved him. And then the flood comes and it's, oh my God. Well, we could start all over again, but we
start from the back.
Be on the criteria. So maybe with one thing with our bonus episodes, we can do a thumbs up and say, should this be a Criterion movie?
Ooh, yeah, I like that. I like that. Yes, definitely. What about I wasn't there for what about Khan?
Yeah.
You guys talked about Khan. Do you think that should be in Criterion?
We love Khan, and I think both of us say it should be a Criterion film. There's so many literary references in it. It's got Dickens all over the place. Probably some Shakespeare. It's
I'm going to say no on the first one that we did, Sailor Suit and Machine Girl, because it was... Cole and I loved that movie. If you didn't listen to that bonus episode, O'Brien, Cole and I loved that movie.
Love that film.
But Arrow Video already did it, and they probably were just better people to do that kind of movie than like I don't think Criterion would have been able to give it the proper love that Arrow did.
The proper. Okay, well, we probably need to sign off before Holly Hunter counts to 3.
Count to 3 and send your piece, or send your piece and count to 3.
So we will see everybody next time for the Hotel du Nord.
Ooh, yes. Hopefully everything will line up for us.
Amen.
All right, this is
all right.
We're signing off.
Recording stop.